Hi, I'm Kyle. I'm Marcos. We're here from Scentroid talking about the SS400.
So getting started, we want to make sure that it's set up correctly. So you want to make sure that your SS400 is plugged in, has power, and that the power switch is on. You want to make sure that there's a USB going from the SS400 to the provided laptop over here. Okay. And you want to make sure that you have air connected at 80 psi. So to connect the air at 80 psi, you're going to want to unscrew this compression fitting, and inside you should find 3 ferrules, and then you will want to fix that on your 3/8 inch tubing in the manner as shown. Tighten that back onto the SS400, and using a pressure regulator, ensure that you have 80 psi input air. After the 80 psi input air is connected, you'll also want to go onto the laptop, go to the admin page, and open up manual control. And we're going to want to turn on valves 4 and 1. This is basically to let the air flow through the system because we want 80 psi while the air is flowing. So you'll see as I open these up that on the pressure regulator, the pressure will drop below 80, then we can readjust it back up to 80. And you also want to make sure that your sample is connected to the port here next to the air input. So similar to the air input, you're going to want to insert that fully with the compression fitting and the ferrules. And then you're going to want to tighten that first by hand, and then you're going to use a wrench to tighten it further. And you'll also want to make sure that the tube going to your sample is as short as possible, just to ensure that the sample has an easy path getting to the MXEs. And then you'll also want to connect your panelist sniffing ports, and it's a similar way to the input air. So you're going to open up these compression fittings, which should have the ferrules inside already. So as you can see, the ferrules are inside. So you're going to want to use your 3/8 inch tubing and connect that to each of the sniffing ports. And that also gets connected over here on the SS400 to each output port. Lastly, you're going to want to connect the USB-C cable to the M5 stack. And that's going to go with this USB here all the way over to each panelist sniffing port location. And that gets plugged in right there. And you'll see that the sniffing port is initializing. Now, in order for this to connect properly, you're going to need your router connected and plugged in nearby to the SS400 and the laptop, which should have been provided with the kit. Okay, and since we connected this to panelist station 1, we can just click 1 here and save.
So now that all your hardware is set up, we can start looking at the software side. So ideally, you should have your laptop. When you turn it on, it should automatically load into our SS400 software. The first thing you'll want to do is, because it's a brand new system, you probably want to set up the panelists that are going to be partaking in the test. So to do that, we're going to navigate to this tab called Panelists. We will select it, and because this is an empty instance, I have none, we're going to go ahead and make one. So what I'll do first is enter the plus sign, and then I will just enter a name. I'll use myself. You don't need to enter a birth date. That's just for historical records if you ever need to. Then just click Save. It will let you know the name can't be changed, and you should see that the panelist is there now. I'll just create one more as well. We'll just call this one Matt, and then we'll hit save, and same deal. We should have 2 panelists. What this allows us to do is all the history that the panelist takes part in with the SS400 will all be stored here. So now we can start talking about the actual challenge part, so the test. So to do that, there's either you can go to the challenge tab itself or the main. We'll just go straight to the challenge, and you can see all of our options here. With the SS400, you have a binary test, a yes-no method, a panelist screening, and a hedonic tone. There's also a button to run the last test just in case you need to run some back-to-backs. To go over a couple other tests, we have the yes-no method. It's very similar to the binary in terms of the input. You still need to enter the names, which panelists are connected, and the sample, as well as the challenge time. The only key difference is this one has a number of blanks. You can enter anywhere from 2 to whatever number. The system will let you know if there's an offset of the numbers that it can't be used. So that part is covered. And the rest of the inputs are pretty much the same. All of the samples will just come out of one port, and the user just detects if they can smell or if they can't smell the cylinder. The third test is the panelist screening. It's similar to a yes/no, except this one you put in a known sample concentration. The end result of this test, rather than return an odor concentration, is actually the odor threshold of each panelist. And then lastly, we have hedonic tone. This is also similar to yes/no. The only difference with this one is there is no if they detect the smell or not. It will only really ask if they smell how good or bad something smells or how intense it is. There is no calculation for this one. It's purely just for your understanding of the odor. For this instance, we'll just go right into the binary one. What you'll see here is the screen to set it up. The important parts is you have a test name, you have a sample name, you have how long each panelist has to sniff, and then your dilution controls are here. And at the bottom, there's a few mode types. So auto mode will allow it to the system to just run on its own. All the panelists need to do is just confirm that they're ready to start sniffing. As you, the admin, you don't need to do anything. If that mode is off, every time a panelist is done sniffing, or in sets of 2 in this case for the SS400, you'll have to just click next to start the next challenge. Intensity rating offers another option on the UI for the panelists. They can put in a scale from 0 to 10 of how strong something smelled. And Hedonic as well offers another scale for the user to input. They can put anything from -5 to 5 just to consider how good or bad a smell was. Just going over this, we'll do a simulation. So our test name, we'll just call this test 1. What's important here is we need to assign the panelists to the M5 stacks or our sniffing stations. So what we'll do is we'll click this edit panelist list button, and this is going to open up a new UI. What's important here on the right is you'll see that there's devices. So device 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, these all represent your sniffing stations. The status available means that you've connected them and you've assigned the position they're in on the M5 stacks. Like Marco showed you earlier when he selected 1, I've gone ahead and added 1 more and selected 4 for this instance. So what we can do is we'll see that they're available, but they're not yet connected. So to connect it, we're just going to add the panelist in. So I'll add myself to 1, and I will add Matt to 4. And then we'll just hit save. This initiates the system to know that those panelists are in that position. It's very important for when calculating test results. That way they're all the same for the correct person. Sample name, we can just call this sample 1. And in terms of dilutions, you have a couple ways to configure it. If you know the number of steps you want to do, you can edit this. So for example, if I want 6 steps, it will automatically adjust the factor for me. And if you want to change your dilution scale, so suppose I want to start at 2 to the 5, and then up to 14, it will also automatically adjust everything for me as well. You can select your different mode types here. And then at the bottom, you just select your number of rounds. We can go up to 5. We'll just do 1 in this instance. And then you'll be presented with this screen, which starts the system initialization. So I just wanted to quickly go over the admin screen. So by default, we've already calibrated and programmed your unit with the factory defaults that are best suited for it. However, if at any point you feel like there's something that needs to change, this is the screen to do it. You can edit here your purge time, your switching values, so going from one MFC to another, your warning times, your presentation airflow, stabilization times. There's also updates on the tolerance. So this is what will allow your MFCs to reach certain values a little bit easier, for example. It's basically a plus or minus threshold, as well as you can update the time zone to be in your current time zone here, and that will reflect on the time at the top. And then there's also the manual control page. At this point here, you can configure to set the MFCs to certain values, and you can open up valves manually as well in case you need to check or calibrate the system. So once again, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Marcos.
And thank you for tuning into our SS400 setup guide. If you have any more questions, please feel free to reach out to support@scentroid.com.